Breaking news out of the NFL that we are monitoring for you here. The Commanders are hiring a new GM, and he's coming from the San Francisco 49ers. Adam Peters will be the new general manager for the Commanders, leaving after a successful run with San Francisco. The team and their new ownership, Josh Harris, making moves to get the ship righted there in Washington. They still need a head coach, have a lot of draft picks, but it will be Adam Peters, who is a quick hire there for Washington. Now we bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. And JJ, I feel like this was a quick moving hire for Washington. What can you tell us about your reaction here and how they landed on him?
Yeah, it was a very fast process. However, a ton of homework went into this process. They wound up interviewing 5 people for this position. Mike Borgonzi with the Chiefs, Glenn Cook with the Browns, Alec Hallaby with the Eagles, and then the 2 finalists, Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham, and of course Adam Peters, the assistant GM of the San Francisco 49ers, someone extremely well thought of throughout the NFL community, scouting and personnel community, who has been ready for his shot for a couple of years now, and has been talked about in a number of different GM positions that he has interviewed for, that he pulled his name out for in some instances in the past couple of years. But this was the one, because Washington, with new ownership, Josh Harris, and we're going to talk more about it in a little bit, is a really, really good job. Now, the title is general manager. Right now, the Commanders technically have a general manager in Martin Mayhew, but things are about to get shuffled up there. Make no mistake about it, Adam Peters is the new head of football operations for the Commanders. He is going to chart the course for the future of the Commanders. He's going to be in charge of the search for the head coach. And so this is a new sort of dynamic in football structure with Washington, where Ron Rivera was the head coach. He was the de facto general manager. He was at the top of the food chain when it came to football. Adam Peters, now the general manager of Washington, is at the top of the food chain. They have a president in Jason Wright. That's over business. Adam Peters runs this, and he's going to determine who the next head coach and what the future of these Washington Commanders will be.
Peters spent several years with the 49ers, also spent time with the Patriots and the Denver Broncos as well in his 40s. What do you think is the first order of business? Is it head coach, and how do you have any inkling of how he might try to lean there?
Yeah, so throughout this process, there was a meeting with our good friend Rick Spielman for 2 hours or so, and they talked about ball. And then there was a meeting with Josh Harris and Bob Myers, the former Warriors general manager. And so that lasted 3 or 4 hours or so. So that happened a couple of nights ago. And then Adam Peters gets the call to take a Zoom with limited partners, Mitchell Rales and David Blitzer and Magic Johnson. That interview took place yesterday. So now what is the first order of business, Zach? It's about getting a head coach. And we see right here all those vacancies. So many of those teams are going to want Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, who is preparing for that playoff game in the wild card round against the LA Rams. And it's a huge one. But look, a lot of teams want him. The Panthers have wanted him badly. David Tepper absolutely wants Ben Johnson. Tried for him last year, is going to try for him again. The Titans have put in a request for him. The Chargers have put in a request for him. The Falcons have as well. So yeah, 5 teams, including the Commanders, that have put in for Ben Johnson. But I believe that he has to be the leading candidate there with the Commanders. The other names that they've put in for, Aaron Glenn, Dan Quinn, Anthony Weaver, Raheem Morris, and Mike McDonald. So that's 6 candidates that they have requested interviews with. There could be more, including the current offensive coordinator with Washington, Eric Bieniemy. But that will be up to Adam Peters. But everything that I'm hearing right now, Ben Johnson should have the lead in Washington. But of course, Ben Johnson is going to have options. I just mentioned the 5 interview slips that he has. It is very, very good to have options. He will be a head coach in short order. It's a matter of where he wants to go. But a lot of people I talk to are pairing Ben Johnson with Adam Peters.
You bring up Bieniemy, and that just piques my interest and curiosity there. Do you think he has a shot at all to become the head coach in Washington, or at all in this cycle?
You know, he's someone who has been interviewed a number of times, I think somewhere around 16 times in the last couple of years. Wound up leaving Kansas City in large part to get out from Andy Reid's shadow to try to show the rest of the NFL, hey, I can do this. And the offense, while putting up a lot of passing yards with Sam Howell, of course, there were some issues with the offense as well. And so, you know, Eric Bieniemy has gone through this cycle a number of times. He's been at Washington. Josh Harris has been able to evaluate him. And Adam Peters, again, if he determines that this is something, an avenue that he wants to pursue, they can absolutely have that internal interview with Eric Bieniemy. 7 vacancies around the league, 6 if you remove Washington. No one yet has officially requested permission to interview Eric Bieniemy, but still certainly time with teams like the Raiders and the Seahawks, neither one of them yet putting in a request to interview.
Looking a little bit deeper at Washington, you figure there's a lot of work to do to try to clean things up and get to the winning ways that they want to be at. You look at the draft, they have a lot of picks, they have a lot of cap space. What do you think is most important when we see it draft time, the number 2 overall pick? Any inkling of how they might lean?
A quarterback would be the biggest inkling right there. And look, the Chicago Bears, I think a lot of people are anticipating they're going to move on from Justin Fields. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. I don't know that Washington, as it stands today, is going to be able to do enough. I see Ryan Wilson's mock draft. It's a great imagination from Ryan Wilson, but I don't know that it's going to be able to be executed. I don't know that the Bears would necessarily give that up. And so let's talk about the Commanders at number 2, where they're going to have to determine if it's Drake May or if it's Jaden Daniels, the LSU Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, someone that in talking with scouts yesterday, they were telling me, listen, Caleb Williams is number 1, but the gap between Drake May and Jaden Daniels has scrunched up a lot in the last couple of weeks. And now you get into the pre-draft process. You go to the combine. You get the interviews. You bring him into your building. We may see a consensus flip where Drake May was number 2. Maybe Jaden Daniels goes to number 2. But more about Washington. They have something like 5 or 6 picks in the top 100-ish of the draft. They, of course, have the pick from the Montez Sweat trade from Chicago. They have the pick from San Francisco for the Chase Young trade as well. And so there's going to be some cleaning up to do there in Washington, but with more than I think $70 million in cap space, with all of those draft picks, with the ability to go out and get a quarterback through any means, free agency or the draft, that you wish. This is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people I speak to, it was the best job out there on the market in terms of general manager. And so it goes to Adam Peters, someone, again, very well thought of. And the runner-up in this, Ian Cunningham, the Bears assistant general manager, he's still in the running for the LA Chargers job. I'd have to imagine he's a top candidate there. The Patriots can always reach out and add to their list as well. So this certainly doesn't close the door on Ian Cunningham, but today is about Adam Peters. Today is about the Washington Commanders and a new chapter, a new era here with Josh Harris as the owner, and they can finally look to the future.
So you figure Peters and that offense always gets a lot of attention, but you look back at Washington's defense, and under Ron Rivera, you would think that would be a strong point for them because Rivera is a defensive head coach, but it was not. They made those trades during the regular season. What do you think Peters might do to fix and shore up the defense? Is this a draft way they fix it, or do they look to go through free agency or something else?
Yeah, I mean, everything's on the table right now, and that's where Adam Peters, who I believe has really sort of keyed in on this job. I mean, he's had some other interview requests as well. The Raiders, we can go ahead and mark him off the list there with the Las Vegas Raiders. Well sought after, but clearly this is something that he has had his focus on for some time. And so surely with all the cap space, again, like adding a pass rusher, gonna be a little difficult. They're in high demand, but again, you have the resources to go out there and do it. Hopefully you believe in Emmanuel Forbes, who had a little bit of a tough rookie year, kind of struggled with some fundamentals. You're going to get a new voice and new perspective on the defensive side, because Zach, as you note, it was led by Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio up until his firing around Thanksgiving. And so a lot of opportunity. They're going to have to figure out the linebacker position probably more than anything. But because of the cap space and because of the draft picks, Washington is well situated, if they make the right choices, to make this team into a division champion.
And to make those moves, it will be Adam Peters, the new GM in Washington. JJ, thank you so much for your time. It is busy season for sure. If you want even more football, make sure you stay tapped in with the Pick Six podcast. They've just dropped an episode talking about the Patriots hiring Gerard Mayo as Bill Belichick's successor out there in New England. So go ahead and like, subscribe, give them a follow as the football conversation always continues on HQ and online.